listening to the Fours Up Podcast with your host, Marsh.
All right, and it is another edition of the Fours Up Podcast. It's your boy, Marsh Thomas. As always, I am joined by my co-host and my wonderful producer, Jordan Nelson. Jordan, how are we? How are we, my man?
I'm good, man. My day job is kicking my butt, but I am good.
That's good. I mean, you're working hard, right?
Yeah. How you doing though?
It's cold here, bro. It's been like 0 the entire week. So I'm whatever. I'm in my Dwayne Wade jersey right now, letting the guns show. Just got back from another arms workout. But I'm just eating some candy right now and ready to get after it, man. We got 2 great guests for you guys today, and I'm ready for a good show, Jordan.
Oh, dude, I think it's going to be a great show. So first thing, one of our listeners at Cuban Kane on Twitter requested that we show some love to the baseball team. So, I mean, I don't follow it. I know you do a little bit, Marsh, but we got the number 1 team in the nation coming up on a series against Florida. Do you have anything to add to that?
The Gators are ranked number 2. We're ranked number 1. It's absolutely huge. I know you don't watch baseball, but I recommend you watch this weekend just because it's a huge series. I think we have A-Rod throwing out the first pitch tomorrow night, and then we have Mike Piazza throwing out the first pitch on Saturday night. So it's going to be a huge series. I know that all tickets are sold out for all 3 games, so that's awesome. And I'm just praying that this team lives up to the expectations. So maybe I can make a trip to Omaha.
Yeah, no, that'd be fun. And, I want to watch because it'd be really good to see us beat some Gators. But, I don't know if I could handle tuning in for a different sport if we fail. So
I know.
Our football program gives me enough strife. I don't know if I need another sport to do that to me.
That's a good point. I'm just in like year-round anguish just because all my teams let me down all the time. But
I feel that, man.
I woke up today in kind of like not an honorary mood, but kind of like a mischievous mood. Just I wanted to piss like some Canes fans off, and so like this Twitter guy was asking everyone what our record is going to be going into week 6. And I first said 4-1, and then I said 2-3 just to like make some people mad. And I was successful. It was Canes fans are just, some are just so sensitive.
Passionate,
it's just so
dude.
fun.
Very passionate fan base. I love it and I hate it,
Yeah. I mean, you can't, yeah.
Well, and you got our future guest that's going to be on in a little bit. You got him riled up too, which I'm sure he's a master of
I am so excited for our second guest tonight, and I'm very excited for our first guest. We got Jeremy Branham from Houston Sports Radio. We're going to talk a little bit about D'Eriq King, and so Jordan, let's get him on.
Okay, dial him up right now.
Hello.
Are you there?
Oh yeah, I'm here.
Hey, Jeremy, how are you, man?
Pretty good. How are you?
Pretty good. So we have Jeremy Branham from Houston Sports Radio joining the Fours Up podcast today. We're going to talk a little bit about D'Eriq King and everything like that. So, Jeremy, again, thank you for joining us.
Oh, no problem. Happy to do it. Always enjoyed D'Eriq King, so happy to talk about what kind of football player he is.
Good deal. Well, first off, I'm going to switch to baseball really quickly because I'm a diehard Yankees fan, and I just wanted
to tell me you were going to do this.
I just wanted to get your opinion on what's going on with your Astros right now.
I mean, it's one of the biggest scandals in Major League Baseball history. I think that's safe to say. The impact of it is questionable. I think that it's a fair conversation to have as well. Like, how many teams were doing this? That's something that I don't know if we'll ever know the answer to. The Astros broke the memo. There's no argument against that. Like, I'm a diehard Houston fan, I'm a diehard Astros fan. But the Astros didn't listen to the memo that Robert Manfred sent to every team in Major League Baseball in the middle of September. The Astros played the final 16 regular season games without knowing about the memo because the front office didn't relay the message, and that's to the Astros organization's fault. And then, they said that they used the scheme whenever they could in the playoffs. So that's kind of where I stand on it.
Okay. What do you think, what do you think's going to end up happening?
Well, I think what's happened is what's going to happen. I don't think Manfred's going to go back on, anything that he disciplined everybody that was involved in terms of the commissioner's report. He gave immunity to the players. So the players, there's no way that they can be retroactively punished. Manfred gave immunity to the Red Sox. We'll see what happens whenever that report comes out. I don't think it's going to be as bad as what was put on the Astros. But look, they find Jim Crane the maximum amount that the MLB Constitution allows to be fined to an owner. They gave a very strict penalty in terms of the draft. Losing 2 first-rounders and 2 second-rounders is a pretty big deal. And Look, I think one of the best managers in the last 3 years, he's won 100 games in the last 3 seasons, has been to 2 World Series, won one of them. He's fired. The Astros are without one of the best managers in baseball. Jeff Luhnow, I've argued, could be called the greatest general manager of all time. He took a perennial 100-loss team that was getting 0.0 TV ratings, that had one of the worst attendances in baseball, that had the worst farm system in baseball when he took over, and he won the World Series in a pretty short time. And whenever you consider all of that, I think he's one of the best GMs we've ever seen in baseball history. He's no longer in the organization, rightfully so. So I believe that the Astros have been punished a lot more than what people think. And I get it. Like, they think that the Astros cheated and they didn't listen to the memo. They ended up winning a World Series. So I get the uproar, believe me, but I also believe the Astros have been punished.
Yeah. That's a great point. But I know I just had to ask because I'm still butthurt about the 2017 ALCS, and so I just had to ask, man.
The Yankees could have scored some more runs in those 4 games that they lost now.
Yeah, I know, man. We just couldn't hit Verlander. I remember it vividly.
You should have took his signs.
Yeah. Well, my dad is a huge Astros fan, and so them giving him a World Series ring, to cheer for, and made me happy. So I don't care. I'll take it. But anyways, Jeremy, shifting gears. We were able to see on Twitter, the passing of De'Aaron King's dad, Eric King, who I didn't know much about until his passing, but it seems like he's a pretty legendary figure in local Houston high school football. Is there anything that you know about that you can shed some light on for us?
I don't know a whole lot. The Houston Chronicle beat writer for the University of Houston actually traveled to Dallas to cover the Houston basketball SMU game last weekend. I believe that was on a Saturday. That was Saturday. And we were about 5 minutes from airtime, and Joseph Duarte is his name. He came over and he told me that De'Aaron King's dad passed away. And I was stunned. I couldn't believe it. He has been a pretty focal name in the city of Houston, and of course was a big name around the University of Houston community whenever they talked about De'Aaron King leaving. So I was shocked. I felt really bad for De'Aaron King, kind of watching him grow up through his high school days and turning into being a very good collegiate quarterback. I hurt for De'Aaron when I heard that news, so I don't know a whole lot behind it, but I just felt terrible for De'Aaron.
Yeah. Well, our condolences from the podcast to the King family, and I'm sure all 3 of us feel that same way, and it's just tough to hear, man.
Yeah, it is tough to hear, and Derek's going through changes in his life right now, right? I mean, none that are as important as losing a parent, losing a father, but it's never a good time to happen. But the transition that De'Aaron is going through right now, I wish it was any time but now.
Yeah, and like Jordan said, all thoughts and prayers to the King family. And so let's get into De'Aaron a little bit, Jeremy. And so we're starting right off the bat. How surprised were you when De'Aaron decided to transfer to Miami? Because as a Hurricane fan, I knew that King was planning to go into the portal and everything, but I didn't think we had a snowball's chance in landing him. What were your thoughts? I guess first when King decided to enter the portal, and then where did you think he would end up, and how surprised were you when he ended up at Miami?
I don't think anybody, if they're being truthful with you, would say that they were that surprised that De'Aaron King tried the transfer portal. Whenever the decision was made, whoever's decision that it was, whenever the Cougars lost to Tulane after the 4th game of the season, they started 1-3, and we got the news that King and Keith Corbin were gonna sit out the rest of the season in red shirt, And of course, Dana Holgerson had been holding back some guys who had some eligibility left to redshirt in an effort to try to get the overall roster older going forward, and kind of a rebuilding type of year, which makes some sense. You look at the Cougars roster, and they were one of the youngest teams in the conference, if not the nation. So the plan was he wants to play with an older roster. And it was shocking that it was King in the mix, though, because, he's your superstar. He was, on some dark horse Heisman candidates to start the season. Then all of a sudden, at the snap of a finger, 4 games later, he's going to redshirt. So it was always a conversation the rest of the season, going into the offseason amongst Cougar fans, what's King going to do? And it was a pretty healthy debate. A lot of people were truthers about it and felt like, oh, no, he's staying. He had the press conference, says he's not going anywhere. He's going to be here. Other people, weren't so optimistic about it. Now, I would say it was probably a 50-50 split within the fan base. I think even the biggest truthers, though, probably had in the back of their mind that it was possible, right? Like, it's the college football world we live in. If a player's not happy or if a player wants to move on, that's the quick thing to do, and they have the right to do that. So I wasn't surprised. I don't think most of the fan base was that surprised. Now, I'll be honest with you. I was surprised Miami was the top target eventually for De'Aaron King. I thought that, Kendall Briles was a place that he'd kind of want to reconnect because he had such a sensational junior year when Kendall Briles was the OC at Houston. So that to me was kind of my uneducated guess. So I was a little surprised that he ended up in Miami, just not knowing a whole lot about the new Miami situation.
All right, so this question is more about De'Aaron King as a person. We had a lot of locker room issues last season, especially at the QB position. Both quarterbacks that started for us, Jaron Williams and N'Kosi Perry, at some point or another have been suspended in their careers. There's work ethic questions, playbook questions, overall maturity questions. There was an article that came out that said that, there was some drug issues in the quarterback's room. What kind of human are we getting with De'Aaron King? And if you could tell us a little bit about the leadership and just the type of person that he is and what we can expect this season.
He is a very good leader. He's not the most vocal leader. I actually saw De'Aaron King kind of grow up a little bit in his football career. I remember seeing him when he was playing in Manville High School. I would call some local playoff games in the Houston area. And Manville, the high school we went to, was always a power in Class 5A, and would make deep and right. And De'Aaron King was putting up record-shattering numbers in Manville, and I always was really impressed with him as the player. And then the more I started to cover them in high school, I asked his coach, Kirk Martin, who I believe now is the quarterback's coach at Syracuse, I think. You might want to fact check me on that. But I remember talking to Kirk Martin, and Kirk Martin says he's the best leader that he's ever coached. I mean, this was a Houston high school coach that had some really good powerhouse programs for a really long time, and he had seen some really good Division I players. And whenever he said that, I believed it. And then whenever he got to the University of Houston, he was a selfless player, played some receiver because he wanted to play. He wanted to win, one of the, most competitive people that you'll be around. And his leadership style is, it's more lead by example. He's not going to get into too many people's faces and say, look, follow me, jump on my back. I'll show you the way. But he does have that quiet confidence about him that, he's going to do it. He's going to be the leader. He's going to be the quarterback. And if you don't follow him, then you might have a problem. But he's not going to be somebody that's going to be vocal, but he is going to be a quality leader and do it with the actions on the football field.
That's awesome to hear. Everything that I've heard, it sounds like he's a great leader, and he's going to be a great addition to this Miami locker room, which has had some problems in the past. Let me ask you this, Jeremy. So we just hired Rhett Lashley, the offensive coordinator, who was at SMU in Houston's same conference as Houston. How do you think De'Aaron will fit into Rhett Lashley's offense?
It's a good question, because he had Shane Buechele this year, he's got a better arm. I would say that, De'Aaron's a really good college football player. The one critique I would have on De'Aaron King as a quarterback is the accuracy. And there's certain things that go into that. He's not the biggest quarterback, tough for him to see over the offensive line. So he's not the best thrower on platform, staying in the pocket, being able to go through the routes and going through the route